Go to the football field now. The huddle broke at Browns rookie mini camp for the first time Friday in Ohio, with, of course, all eyes on Shedeur Sanders. But the Browns have 2 rookie QBs in their room, as they also selected Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round. Kevin Stefanski has called it an open competition in Cleveland. However, should be noted, Gabriel took the first snap of team drills in minicamp, not Sanders. You know who's there for it? NFL reporter Kimberly A. Martin joins us now from outside of the Browns practice facility. And Martin, I know you were at camp yesterday. What more can you tell us about how Shedeur looked and what they were saying about him in his first day at camp?
Yeah, listen, Shay, a lot is being thrown at Shedeur Sanders, as is the case with all of these rookies who are trying to get up to speed on this playbook. And here's one thing that stood out yesterday after the first day of practice. You know, typically on day one, coaches will see those quote-unquote rookie jitters. But both Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel showcase flashes of that same poise and that passing ability that we saw in their college careers. And that was a good sign. Now, as you said, it's still early. It's still day one. But, in practice, they had a longer 7-on-7 period to accommodate the 2 quarterbacks. And as you noted, Dillon Gabriel did take the first reps of the team period. And I can tell you, as we were waiting for Stefanski, we saw Shedeur Sanders. He was one of the last players to leave the field. He stayed late to kind of throw passes to a rookie tryout. So, again, these are just the first early days of rookie minicamp.
Just starting to get to work, right? But Sanders is one of 4 quarterbacks currently on the roster. And so this is going to continue to be a thing,
yes.
Kimberly. So what did Kevin Stefanski have to say about this entire quarterback situation?
I'm glad that we are at least mentioning Dillon Gabriel, because he is another quarterback that is here, and a lot of attention on Shedeur. But, Kevin Stefanski was asked pointedly, tell us about how did you decide that Dillon should get the first reps? And typical Kevin Stefanski fashion, he said, I wouldn't read into that. I think Stefanski's main point yesterday was this competition is ongoing, and rookie minicamp is part instruction, part competition. But there's a lot of work that has to be done. These guys have to take what they're learning in the meeting room, bring it out onto the field. So, Shay, as much as we want to know who is going to be the Browns quarterback this season, we are so many months away from that, and this is just the first step. So let's not read into it, but we're going to be watching today, because we're going to hear from these quarterbacks a little later.
Of course, we're going to read into it. That's what we do here at ESPN. And I'm over here talking about 4 quarterbacks in the QB room. I mean, we should add 5. Deshaun Watson is still in that quarterback room as well, although it's very unlikely we see him on the field. He still will be a part, I will assume, meetings and whatnot. Kmart, I am sure I will talk to you a lot over the next couple of days and weeks. Thanks, Kmart. Appreciate you.
Senior NFL writer Jeremy Fowler joins us now. He said that this Cleveland quarterbacks competition is going to be all-encompassing evaluation. And obviously they have Kenny Pickett there. They have Joe Flacco as well. What are you hearing about the 2 rookies, though, at first glance?
Yeah, so they're going to keep 4 quarterbacks, Hannah, throughout the offseason leading into training camp. So Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders will have plenty of opportunities to make their impression and to try to make the team. That's really their first goal. They have to do that because the Browns are probably going to keep at a max 3 quarterbacks. Somebody's going to be the odd man out. So Sanders has been as advertised as far as what the Browns liked in the pre-draft process: accuracy, decision-making. They want to see him build on that. But the tricky part for him is they're really high on Gabriel. They essentially overdrafted him in the 3rd round just to ensure that they got him. I was told the Browns are really surprised that the media never picked up pre-draft very much on how high they were in Gabriel, with their private workouts with him, with bringing him in for a top 30 visit. So he's still in a pretty good position right here, and we'll see. Now, I'm talking to people around the league. They wouldn't be surprised if the Browns try to swing a trade eventually with one of these 4 quarterbacks, because they look at that position as currency, as value. So if somebody plays well in the preseason, maybe they'll be in a new uniform.
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating to see. You know what they say when you have multiple quarterbacks, that you have none. I know, but they do. They have a ton. All right, let's talk about another rookie quarterback who we got our first eyes on, and that would be that number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, and the Titans. What are you hearing so far about Ward?
Well, Hannah, what's funny is he knows the play.
Shedeur Sanders was seen as one of the biggest wild cards entering the first round of the NFL Draft Thursday. Sanders had a prolific 2024 season. He posted an all-time FBS record with a 71.8 career completion percentage, was not picked during the draft's opening round, and now waits for his fate to be decided heading into today and the start of round 2. In a video posted to social media after the completion of the first round, Sanders admitted he did not expect to go undrafted Thursday, but he appeared to still be positive. All right, there are only 2 quarterbacks drafted last night. Cam Ward, first overall to the Titans, was not a surprise. The Giants trading up to draft Jackson Dart was a surprise, but it's just the 2nd time in the last 10 years where only 1 quarterback went before pick 25. Here's a warning from Louis Redick about passing on Sanders.
all the teams that are passing on him right now, as Mel just mentioned, are taking a gamble. They're taking a gamble. The teams who need a quarterback, and if you pass on him and he winds up having a Drew Brees type of career, a Tom Brady type of career, which he's totally capable of. You're going to sit back and teams are going to, there's going to be a lot of revisionist history on him. I get that. There's going to be a lot of case studies done on why did people pass on him? Was it because they thought he was cocky? Was it because of his dad? Was it because he was too brash? All the other nonsense that you hear. Because it isn't because of how he plays the game. I agree with
you. Strong sound right there. Marcus, why did Shedeur not get drafted in the first round?
Teams didn't think he was good enough to get drafted in the first round. And some teams didn't need a quarterback. Some teams thought other positions were more valuable. And I get, here's the thing, and I said this earlier today, man. I get everybody, because we've talked about Shedeur Sanders ad nauseum for the last 3 years when him and Prime and Travis Hunter showed up to Jackson State. We talked about the tandem. He coaching his father, Shedeur. They transfer and they go to Colorado, and Shedeur plays well. They win the TCU game. Everybody going crazy. They make Colorado relevant. All of those things have transpired all the way up until this point where we get to the draft. And when you start evaluating and teams look at this, and let me say this, the media didn't have one pick in the first round last night. Nobody called us to ask us, should they take Shedeur or should they take Cam Ward or should they trade up to get Travis Hunter? Nobody did that. These teams looked at it and they said, we don't feel like the value is there to take Shedeur Sanders in the first round. There was a team that traded up in the New York Giants that didn't feel like he was good enough for them to take him with the 26th pick. So that's that in that scenario. Here's the other thing. When you start thinking about and this is why sports is so great. As much as we could want to see it for him, and teams have I'm sure teams have come back and said, I regretted not taking this guy. You think Chicago ain't say it after they've seen what Patrick Mahomes has done? You don't think the Giants regret after, even though it might have not made a difference in the championship, what they saw Saquon Barkley do in Philly? So I understand it. This is primetime Deion Sanders' son, who played the position really, really good for the Colorado Buffaloes. They won more games, brought more attention, more eyes were focused. But when 32 teams last night were on the clock, and the teams that needed a quarterback were on the clock, they did not think Shedeur Sanders at that point, which I think he'll get drafted tonight or even in the third round, had enough value for them to use that pick to pick him. That's all it boils down to. Now, we can get into the game and why we think these things happen, but that's ultimately what we watched transpire last night.
2 words: evaluation and projection. And that's what the first round is about. And so, Marcus, you heard me say to Stephen A. Molly, one, can we stop having the funeral for Shedeur right now? Can we stop? He didn't get drafted in the first round. He very well might get drafted in the first 5 picks tonight. And candidly, it could be a better situation for him. So it's not the end of his story. Marcus and I were watching the draft last night with MK and a couple other people, and we're sitting there, and the reality set in of it did kind of stink, because what should be a celebratory story and really
Titans, that was decided months ago. I didn't think that the Browns were ever in serious play to draft Shedeur Sanders at number 2 overall. I sure as hell didn't think they'd draft him at number 144 overall either, which is exactly what happened. But that's not even the craziest thing. I thought the Browns would hang out at number 2 and take the player that wasn't Cam Ward, whether it's Travis Hunter, whether it's Abdul Carter. I thought they would stick and pick and just be boring and have a relatively boring weekend. Maybe you draft a quarterback later if there's one that you like. None of that went to plan, because within 10 minutes of this all kicking off, the Browns trade out of the 2 spot. The Jacksonville Jaguars give up a bunch to go get Travis Hunter, the 2-way player, Heisman Trophy winner. They make arguably the biggest splash of draft weekend. And the Browns are left to weigh the decision of, was it the right call to trade away from a guy that's arguably the best receiver and arguably the best corner in the draft? Even if we got a future one, Even if we still drafted Mason Graham, the Michigan D tackle at number 5 overall, even if we have all these reasons to like what we did, are we going to regret this? The way that we regretted not drafting Julio Jones and letting the Atlanta Falcons go get him a decade plus ago. That's juicy enough in its own right. But then Shedeur Sanders' slide becomes a story that lasts until Saturday evening. Plenty of people thought Shedeur Sanders might slide. Plenty of people had him falling out of the first round. That wasn't even a shocker on Thursday night when we recapped all of this. I sure as hell didn't expect him to go in the middle of day 3. And even if that was expected by, no, it wasn't. It wasn't expected by anybody. But even still, I sure as hell didn't think it would be the Cleveland Browns that took him after they drafted Dillon Gabriel, number 94 overall, 14 hours before he was picked. The whole thing is just bonkers. The way that we got here, the way that Shedeur was seen as a possible top 3 pick for months, the way that there was pushback to that, but then there was pushback to the idea of him falling out of the first round. And then Friday night, as the tumble continued and team after team decided he wasn't worth it, the Pittsburgh Steelers famously deciding not to draft Shedeur Sanders, and now they'll be faced with those questions. The New Orleans Saints are another one. How well Shedeur Sanders takes this opportunity in Cleveland is going to define so many things, obviously for the Cleveland Browns, but also for other quarterback needy teams that decided he wasn't worth it. And I'll throw in my 2 cents. It's pretty obvious to me that the worth of Shedeur Sanders far outclips his ability on the football field. I just want to say it for the record. The guy's a good quarterback. He might not have been worthy of a top 5 pick. I would argue probably not worthy of having his number retired at Colorado. He's definitely a good football player. He definitely shouldn't have been waiting as long as he had, but, and I'll steal this from Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, who I think nailed it, call it the Tim Tebow effect. When you are so famous and so polarizing that you are guaranteed to be the biggest story on your team once you're drafted, it's a hell of a sell to an NFL team to draft you to be not the starter. And that is clearly what was going to be the case for Shedeur Sanders once he continued to fall. Really, pick 83 in the 3rd round, the Pittsburgh Steelers had a chance to draft Shedeur Sanders to at least fight for their starting job in the 3rd round. And once that didn't happen, you're saying, okay, nobody views this guy as being worthy of being a topic on all of the debate shows. You know, every show on FS1 here at Fox is going to be talking about this guy, no matter how much he is going to play. And it's crazy. It's crazy to me